All right, somebody give me a thumbs up. Can you all hear me fine? Good, okay, wonderful. Let's go ahead and get started. I have 3 things to go over today, and then we'll open it up for questions like we normally do. The first thing is just to provide an update from the legislative session. The second thing is we'll turn some time over to Wes Porter from DHRM, who will be talking about the EDIA challenge that the governor's office started and that we'll be doing within government operations. And then lastly, before questions, I'll turn some time over to Marilee and Jake Knorr to talk about the new idea submission portal. So let's start real quick with that ledge update. Let me share my screen. Just give me 1 second. Okay, does everyone see that? The spreadsheet or the slideshow I have open? I see a few nods. Okay, good. Let's see. Hopefully that makes it a little bit better. Okay, so just giving an update on the things that we requested in this last legislative session, and then what we got and how we're moving forward. So first of all, this screen shows all of the items that we requested in this legislative session. As you can see, there were several. This was a much bigger year for government operations, than we've had in the past with all of our divisions combined. So we had several items that we went to IGG and sought funding for. So just going through division by division, what was approved by the legislature. The first thing were requests from the executive director's office. So we asked for funding for 2 new roles. The first one is the finance director. That was approved. We actually hired that person back in December, Jake Hennessy. So he was very relieved to discover that we get to keep him around because his position was funded. And you'll notice it's a low amount. And the reason why we do that is because our agency, we have some appropriated divisions and some divisions that are ISFs. So both the finance director and the internal auditor roles will be billed back to all of the divisions. The ISFs will incorporate that as part of overhead in their rates. And then the funding that we requested was for the appropriated divisions to cover their portion. So we did receive approval to hire the finance director, which we have. That was Jake Hennessy, and we hired him in December because Ken Hansen had been doing some of the financials, and we wanted time for Ken and other finance directors within the organization to train with Jake before Ken left. We will be hiring an internal auditor, and this will be an internal auditor that will work across the division. So across the department. So will be a resource for all divisions. And then we also asked for a reallocation of money from the Division of Purchasing to Executive Director's Office to conduct an external ISF audit. Now that all of the ISFs are under one umbrella, we felt it would be a good opportunity to bring in an outside firm that will look at all of the rates that we charge to other state agencies to make sure that we're covering the cost of the services that we're providing, that the rates are accurately reflecting the cost of providing the services. So we're not underbilling, but we're also not charging more than we should be for what it costs us to actually provide. And also looking as to whether or not the rates that we charge are competitive with private sector solutions. So all 3 of those were approved and funded. Going on to Division of Finance, they asked for a few general fund allocations, a capital outlay, and a reallocation. So the first 2 were general fund asks. The first one was for financial system optimization, which is a one-time of about $1.7 million. For those of you who don't know, we are in the process of upgrading the state financial system. It's called FiNet. And for quite some time, we've been on a locally hosted server-based system that was several versions behind. I think we were close to 6 versions behind and getting to the point where the vendor was saying that they would no longer support it. So we received approval and funding from the legislature in the 2021 general session to upgrade that system, to bring us to the newest version, to move it to a SaaS model. So it's cloud-based and the vendor hosts the servers and such. This financial system optimization is to configure and deploy system updates the state is very unique in all of the financial reporting that we do, the way that we account for finances. And so while we'll receive consistent updates, we do have to make sure that they're configured specifically for our needs. The other thing that Division of Finance is working on is a chart of accounts update. And so as we consolidated and became government operations, and DHHS is consolidating and becoming a department combining human and health and human services, and there were a few other smaller consolidations that were done. That requires the chart of accounts, which is really the backbone of this system in helping us to collect that data department by department. That required it to be updated. And so while they're handling those consolidations, they're also looking at how to update chart of accounts across the state to make it more consistent across agencies. We've given agencies a lot of flexibility and autonomy on how they utilize the chart of accounts. And at times that has created some challenges for us when we're trying to provide data to the legislature or the governor's office that gives accurate comparisons and such. So that chart of accounts update is a big push this year, and that money will be, a lot of that money will be used for that purpose. The other thing that Division of Finance requested was ongoing funding for accountant retention and recruitment. We have accountants within the Division of Finance that are very specialized in that they need to understand government accounting principles, but they actually also handle things like our annual comprehensive financial reporting. They are responsible for closing the books for the state every year. They do quite a few things that we have to have very specialized skill sets, and over the years we found that it's been harder and harder for us to recruit and retain for those positions. So this funding will impact a handful of roles that will allow us to be more competitive and then allow us to remain compliant with the regulations that we have within Division of Finance. There was a one-time capital outlay of $1.4 million to purchase a new travel and expense system. This is a new system that will automate a lot of the manual processes that our agencies and that we have to do right now. If any of you have had to seek travel reimbursement or expense reimbursement, you probably have seen firsthand how painful our system is. It's very outdated. It's very manual. It takes a tremendous amount of time just to submit these expense reports or these travel reports. And so we're excited to get a new system that will really just automate quite a bit of that. We've heard from agencies asking for this because their staff spend so much time trying to track and handle these processes. So this will allow us to upgrade it and modernize that. This is coming. How the travel and expense system works, we as the Division of Finance, we get a P card rebate every year that's usually distributed back to agencies based on their P card purchases. The capital outlay, the authority that we requested asked that we keep that rebate in order to purchase this new system. And one of the things we did before even approaching the legislature was to reach out to agencies, especially the ones who received the largest rebates, letting them know that we wanted to do this and receive their support. And they were all supportive because they all really hate this travel and expense system. So they're excited for this new system. And then lastly, within Division of Finance, there was a $1.3 million reallocation from the Office of State Debt Collection to the Division of Finance to purchase a new loan system with web capabilities. I don't know how many of you were able to watch the presentation that we gave on day one of our presentations, but I shared a screen showing some DOS systems, and the DOS system is actually our loan management system. That current system is completely DOS based, and so I shared a screenshot of the black background with the green letters, and I received a few raised eyebrows, not knowing that we had some systems that were that outdated. So that was also approved, and we'll make sure that gets implemented as well. That will allow web capabilities. Right now, those individuals or those corporations or organizations that owe money through that loan system, they're not able to pay online. They're not able to see their balances online, and it's again a very manual process. So we'll be updating that system as well. Moving on to Division of Human Resource Management, there were two things that I'm going to focus on here. One was a request for additional performance management staff. So HB 104 we talked a little bit about in the last town hall. It was passed and approved, and it moves the state to a performance management system effective in fiscal year 24. And part of that requires the Division of Human Resource Management to provide mandatory training to all supervisors and managers across the state and to implement this new program. So DHRM asked for 6 FTEs that will be responsible for developing that program, implementing it, and then the ongoing training that will be required, and that was approved. They also asked through rates for an additional 8 roles within DHRM that will go toward building up the field offices. 5 of those will build up field offices, 2 will help with HR strategy, and 1 will be allocated to the ERIC team. Normally, we just go through the rate process to get that approved, but the legislature this year, because it was adding additional personnel, asked us to bring that to IGG and discuss it there as well, which we did. John Barron did a great job explaining the challenges that DHRM is facing, and actually showed an interesting graphic where as the number of state employees has risen, the number of DHRM employees has actually dropped. And so that ratio between human resources and state employees has grown. And so there was a need to bring on more people in order to do the things that agencies are asking DHRM to do, things such as targeted recruiting strategies and some of the other things that they've asked. So that was also approved in this session. Division of Risk Management, they received approval to reallocate $3 million from the Workers' Compensation Fund to the Property Fund, and this is being used to build up our reserves for property claim deductibles specifically related to earthquakes. We had an earthquake, was it 2020? I'm trying to remember now. Anyway, we had an earthquake in March, and it didn't feel that significant, but the state actually realized about $65 million worth of damages from that earthquake. And so just our premiums are going up. We're seen as more of a risk now. And so we're trying to build that fund to cover the deductible. And then technology services. So this one was a little interesting with what the legislature did. So we asked for a variety of things, and they split it up a little bit. So one of the things we asked for was the Utah Geospatial Resource Center asked for some web service enhancements. They did approve $261,000 ongoing for UGRC to update those web services that multiple state agencies, and not just state agencies, but government entities and others throughout the state utilize for things such as I listed here on the screen, unclaimed property, fleet management, the Lieutenant Governor's Office uses it for voting efforts, et cetera. So that ongoing money was approved. But then everything else we asked for, instead of just giving us the projects one by one, the legislature decided instead to create a technology innovation fund, and they put $20 million one-time in it and then $5 million ongoing. And instead of listing line by line all of the things we requested and funding it, they just said that we can utilize that technology innovation fund to pay for technology. So the great thing about that is that they're giving us as the executive branch autonomy to determine how we're going to spend that money. With one caveat, they did put intent language that does specify that the ongoing for fiscal years 23, 24, and 25 will be used to pay for the HCM payroll system we used. But that was the only intent language that they specifically put to that fund. So that's the only actual requirement for it. All of the other projects will be determined by a committee that executive branch members that will consist of representatives from government operations, from GOPB, and the chief innovation officer will sit on that committee as well. And we'll meet together to discuss the other projects that we requested and how we can fund those with this technology innovation fund. So examples of things that we asked for that this funding could be used for include things like the citizens portal, enterprise products, modernization tools, or other technology projects. So we will be meeting as a committee. We have our first meeting after session ended coming up next Monday to discuss the items that we requested and the funding that's available and how we want to utilize that funding to cover some of those projects. And then beyond that, that $5 million ongoing, that committee will be responsible for determining how that's allocated each fiscal year. So it was an interesting twist. It's not something that we asked for, but it's actually good for us in that it's giving us more autonomy to decide how we want to fund technology, enterprise technology products. This fund won't be utilized for agency specific projects. So if UDOT or DABC has a technology need for their specific department, they'll still seek funding for that separately through the processes that they go through now. And there were actually quite a few technology projects that were funded beyond just what we asked for in government operations. So the DTS team is going to be very, very busy this upcoming fiscal year. And that was everything that was funded. I'm going to stop sharing so I can see comments. That was everything that was funded through the legislative session. So I just wanted to provide an update there. And during the Q&A, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have on that. But those were the things that we asked for and received. The legislature was really good to us this year. We had, as you saw on that first slide, we had a lot of requests, and we talked a lot internally about what the likelihood was of getting even half of what we asked for. It's sometimes very challenging to get money from the legislature. And while there was quite a bit of money to spend this year, the legislature ended up receiving twice as many requests than the funding that was available. So they had to make some really difficult decisions on what they were going to cover. And we were really fortunate that they covered most of what we asked for. Okay, moving. Oh yeah, 2 years ago tomorrow. That's right. It was in March. So yes, that earthquake again. It at least where I live, it didn't feel that significant, but quite a few state buildings were damaged. Okay, let's move on to Wes. Wes, are you on the line?
I am.
Okay, I'm going to turn the time over to you to talk about what the state is doing with EDIA and then what you're doing specifically for government operations.
Yeah,
and
perfect.
you should probably introduce yourself, because I don't know if everyone on this call knows who you are yet.
I'm not sure if they do either, but I'll definitely do that. So just for the team, my name is Wes Porter. I am the EDI Accelerator. I am housed in DHRM on John Barrett's team. And it's an inaugural role developed from the One Utah document from the governor. And my job, my duties are to specifically look inward at different equity and access opportunities that we have here in the state. A couple of areas that I'm focusing on are education and training, recruitment and retention, and systems, specifically our processes, procedures, and policy to make sure they're in line with the equitable access that the governor's looking for. So I'm excited to talk a little bit about the great things that are happening in the EDIA. First, I want to just kind of share with people, I'm a really Utah hire. So I'm way out here in Vernal, Utah. Most of my meetings, actually all except for I think 2 so far, I've been here since October, have been on virtual, online. And I just want to say thank you to the individuals I've talked about, because learning about individuals' compassion, their competence, and their professionalism has been amazing as a new hire here for the state. So I just want to give kudos to this team for making me feel so welcome. So Gov Ops EDIA Challenge. So one thing that we're doing, and the governor's cabinet took this, and Nubia Pena and her team in the multicultural division put it together. But what it is a challenge that's designed with 21 units to discuss Utah's complex history from an EDIA perspective. And in this challenge, each participant will be able to bring their life experiences and their perspectives with a common willingness to learn from one another. And this challenge is designed to support our mission effectively to serve all of Utah. And so what we're doing in this is right now we're in what's called a pilot program. And in this pilot program, myself and some members of the team are taking it to ensure that the program is laid out and designed to meet the needs of government operations and to meet the intent that Jenny has for us in there. And so once the actual pilot program is complete, which should be completed in the next few weeks, and then we'll be able to actually put a couple different things together to make sure the program is set for us. What you're going to see is the second cohort. And this cohort of individuals that take the challenge are going to be our executive leadership. And the intent behind this is to, one, create buy-in, a shared understanding of what it is, but to turn them into facilitators for the rest of us. And so after the executive leadership takes this program, it's going to be an open invite to the rest of us to be able to take it with them as facilitators and to learn, to lead, and to understand. And so the whole intent here is to, one, build a shared frame of reference for the state leadership and agencies seeking to improve EDIA, which is equity, diversity, inclusion, and access, and then to present data, ideas, and perspectives considered fundamental to understanding the needs of our diverse members of our communities here in the state of Utah. Now, next thing that we have going on is actually what's called the Edia Framework. And this is happening at the state level with myself and Nubia and a few others from the Edia 1 Council. And what this is, it is a document that frames a shared understanding of the governor's vision of EDIA through practical action at our levels. What this means is that you're going to have a document for all the different leaders here in the state to help you understand how to, one, identify EDIA gaps in our organization, how to address those gaps, how to develop EDIA goals and develop initiatives. And really the important thing about this framework is that it takes all of what we're doing in the EDIA realm and it's creating a standardization and centralization of procedure. What that means is that we're going to be doing maybe different things in the realm, but we're all going to be doing it the same way with the same shared understanding, which to my knowledge, after talking with a few different members, we haven't had that here in the state. And so we're going to see a unified movement moving forward in this realm that I'm very excited for. And then the last thing I want to share is something called the Learn and Lead series. And what this is a developmental series that's going to be offered to all of the state, specifically us here in Gov Ops, and it's a developmental series that'll help teams learn about complex topics that can build capacity to better lead and equitably serve our state. And this will be done through webinars, and a couple different of the subjects which we'll have are inclusive leadership. We'll be talking about communication practices, courageous conversations, and how to create belonging. And I think the important thing to know when we're talking about EDIA is how do we incorporate that into our culture, and how do we build as a relatively new team in the state, how do we build not only who we are, but how we do things. And those are some of the great things that are happening here in the EDIA realm. There's a lot that you'll see coming out here in the summer as well, but those are the three main ones that I wanted to share with you today. And so pending any questions, I'll turn that back over to Jenny for any comments.
Thank you, Wes. I just want to point out for those of you who haven't read the One Utah Roadmap yet, and I hope everyone has, this is really a big priority of the Cox-Henderson administration. Governor Cox has implemented this as part of his One Utah Roadmap. The position that Nubia Pena sits in now is a new position that he created to help Utah as it relates to EDIA efforts. And then Wes's role is a new one within DHRM and government operations to help not just our department, but really the state as we move toward that direction as well. So we're really excited to participate in this challenge that the governor's office, the cabinet has already participated in, and governors requested and recommended that each department now implement it across each of our departments. So we're excited to see that moving forward. Thank you, Wes. Okay, let me turn some time over to Marilee and Jake Nord to talk about the IDEA portal.
Awesome. Can you hear me? I'm kind of doing a makeshift audio. Good.
Yes.
First, I just want to shout out to Dan Chadwick, who makes me want to go find a leprechaun to hug. I see lots of spirited people here, and that is awesome. And I just want to point out that I cannot wear green today because it makes my skin look yellow, and I could not possibly make a fashion faux pas like that. So there you go. I just wanted to talk a little bit about something that we've talked about before. It's the ability to submit ideas. So all of us in EDO have had employees who have stopped us and said, you know, here's a great idea for some efficiency gain or better service for our customers or better collaboration between divisions. And we've heard some really, really wonderful ideas, and we are really wanting to capture these so that we don't lose them. We have set up a committee that has really taken a look at how to capture these ideas. And I'm just going to say that as Jake talks about these forms that we're going to ask you to fill out, I want you to know that the idea is not to make it difficult for you to submit your ideas, but we would like you to think like leadership or executive management has to think in terms of what would it mean to implement this idea? Where would we get the resources? How would we fund this? What would it mean in terms of collaboration with with divisions and what would that look like? And so we're asking you to join us in that thinking process and have you not just throw out your idea, but really think in terms of what that implementation might look like. Now, I do want to say that if you don't have the answers to every one of those questions, still submit your idea. But we'd just like to involve you in that thinking process as much as possible. So with that introduction, I'm going to turn the time over to Jake Nord to talk about what his committee has done in terms of the formality of submitting these ideas. And can I tell you, some ideas have been submitted already, and they have merit. Like really, really great things are already happening. So Jake, take it away.
Yeah, so as we talk about this is accessible.
Jake, your audio is really choppy.
Oh, no, I
don't think it's going to work. Can you hear us?
Okay. Then I'm gonna just take over unless Jake pops back on and then stop me, because he and his committee are the ones who've done all the work on this, and I really want to give them all the credit. So I don't want to steal their thunder. But on each of the division websites down by the footnotes, there should be a link for you to access the form to submit the idea. There's also one on the Gov Ops website down in the footnote area. We want it to be super easy for you to access. As you fill out that form and submit it, the next step is it will go to an initial committee where they will look through the ideas. Now, someone in this group is totally going to submit the idea of a 2-day work week. And I'm just telling you right now, it's not going to happen. So that committee is going to filter out some of the ideas that, though, to all of us, that might sound great. We know that that's probably not realistic. They're going to invite the idea submitters to make a presentation. And you will have the opportunity to come in either individually or as a team to present your idea and give context as to what problem are we trying to solve? Like, why is this such a fabulous idea? Is Jake back on yet?
Not that I can see.
Okay.
Yes, I'm back. Really.
Oh, take it away, Jake.
Okay, sorry, I had a little connectivity issue here. So I don't know what exactly you've talked about so far, but we wanted to make it as accessible as possible to everybody who wants to submit an idea. We've had a couple of good ideas submitted so far, and the way that everybody will submit your idea is to go to your website, and in the footer of all the websites or on the employee websites, we've got a submit an idea button there. And so they're kind of in a couple different places on most websites they're in the footer, but I know that on the DGO website, it's kind of in the middle of the page, but we're working to put them all in the same place and have it all be called submit an idea. So once you click that button, you'll go to a Google form we've created that's got some specific information we want you to fill out and talk about how it falls in line with DGO's values and what specific problem is it going to fix and what divisions will be impacted, and just kind of a basic summary idea, how much it's going to cost, if there's a cost associated with it, and so on. And then the committee will hear it and vote on it, and then pass it forward to the next group of people. So once our initial gateway committee will meet and discuss it and vote on it, it'll go up to division director management, and they'll be able to look at it and take a look what they're going to do going forward. So so far, like I said, so far we had a couple of submissions, and we're excited to talk to those people, but that's where we're at right now.
Thank you, Jake and Marilee. I appreciate that. Okay, that was everything on the agenda. So I'm just going to look through some of these questions quickly, and then I also want to respond to a few questions that came through the intranet. I apologize that has really slowed down quite a bit, and so I did not look in February and missed a few during the February town hall. So I'll make sure I get to those today. Just looking through, one of the questions came up was, can you explain the new holiday Juneteenth? Is it a paid holiday? So DHRM, you might have to chime in here and correct me if I get anything wrong, but yes, it was approved in this last legislative session, so it is a paid holiday. And it's my understanding, if I remember correctly, it will always be recognized on a Monday. So if June 19th falls between a Monday and a Friday, it will be recognized on the Monday before. And if it falls on a Saturday or Sunday, it will be recognized the Monday after. So this year, June 19th is on a Sunday. So the state will recognize that as a paid holiday on Monday, the 20th. And Jean says that I'm correct. So yeah, that's how it's going to work. So that was approved, and it is a new state paid holiday. Let's see, EDIA, looks like that was answered. Lots of people love your costume, Dan. And Dan also recommends a 3-day work week instead of a 2-day, Marilee. So watch for that to come through. Okay, a few things I want to address that came in through the intranet and through the governor's town hall. So the governor held a town hall on Monday and took questions from agencies across the state. And one of the questions that was asked was, how do we work through any type of discrimination or discriminatory practices that exist in our departments? You know, our supervisors often are really busy and they don't have time to deal with it. So who do we talk to if we're being discriminated against or seeing discriminatory behavior occurring? And I just wanted to remind everyone on this call that for government operations, Cass Hart is our HR person from DHRM. So you're always welcome to talk to a supervisor, and really any supervisor in your chain of command. So if it's an issue you're having with your direct supervisor, you can go to the next person in line or anybody on that chain of command. But DHRM is always a resource, and Cass Hart is the person that's assigned to government operations. And so please, if you're experiencing or seeing any type of behavior like that should be reported, please either work with your supervisor or go directly to Cass Hart, and her team will investigate it and address that. Cass is saying John Gardner is also a great resource. So yes, he's also assigned, he works on Cass's team to government operations. So you can reach out to John as well. Going through the questions that came in February that I missed, somebody asked, they had a question about taking FMLA leave. Who do I talk to? I would, again, push you to DHRM. So Cass Hart, John Gardner, both are great resources to reach out to if you have any questions as it relates to FMLA. One of the comments that came through relates to this idea portal that we just talked about, but they said it's frustrating to make suggestions and not get feedback. And so it would be easier for us to stay engaged if we knew our suggestions were accepted or rejected, and if they were rejected, why. And as Marilee mentioned, as we've gone through this process of consolidating and becoming government operations, we've received feedback in a variety of formats, which has been fantastic. And so we've had people that have reached out directly to me or to members of EDO with ideas and suggestions. We've had things come through anonymously through the employee intranet. We've held focus groups, we've had surveys, we've had quite a few mechanisms that we put in place in order to receive that feedback. But as Marilee mentioned, there's not really a repository for all of that feedback to go into one spot, so that we can accurately report back to everyone here as to how we're implementing that. And so that was really one of the big purposes of this new idea portal, is to have those go into one location, so that way they can be fully vetted. And then also we can put some accountability on ourselves as an executive director's office and a senior leadership to go back to the person who made the recommendation or to the department as a whole if we're going to implement it, and say, this idea came and was submitted, and we're going to implement it. And I believe that this committee is even going to have the employee themselves report on it if something's going to be implemented. And Marilee's raising her hand.
Yeah, I appreciate whoever asked this question, because I wanted to mention just a couple of things. So on the idea portal, or on the idea submission, we will be creating, I don't know whether it's going to be a spreadsheet or something like that, that will list what ideas have been submitted. I assumed that we would list who the submission was by, but there has been some concerns that some folks may not want to be listed as an idea submitter, which, you know, we would certainly honor. But in that spreadsheet, you could track the idea and see what was happening and what some of the feedback was. Additionally, I also wanted to just mention something about the surveys, and I'm going to tell you, I'm really sorry I let that drop through the legislative session. And because I have shown that I can't be trusted with that, I have turned that over to Steve Cuthbert, who will be sending those surveys out, because this is super important. And we talk a lot internally about the results of those surveys. I can't express to you how important your answers to those are. But it's really important to whoever asked this question. I didn't follow who that was, but it's really important that you hear what the results of these surveys are and you hear what's happening. And so as part of the assignment that I gave to Steve Cuthbert out of DHRM was to list the survey results on that intra site, the employee website, Gov Ops employee site. And Melissa, if you can put that URL in the chat again, that is where you'll find the results to all of this. So to the survey results, we would also post, okay, here's where the conversation is going, and this is what we're thinking about in addressing some of these areas of concern that come up. So that's where you're going to really keep abreast of the conversations that are happening, and where you can add to those conversations.
Thanks, Marilee. I should have apologized in advance. I had the flu all last week, and so my voice is still recovering, and I have to keep muting myself to cough or drink water. So I apologize for that. The last question that came through the portal that I missed last month, it asks about following state and federal employment laws with at-will employees, and the person indicated that they were told that those laws won't be violated under the current leadership, but we might have to sue if we were dissatisfied. And would that be the answer that Gov Ops would still give today? I'm not sure where that came from, but I would say no, that we expect all managers and employees to follow state and federal employment laws. And if, kind of going back to that discrimination question, if you're seeing anything, whether it's happening to you or to somebody on your team that violates either state or federal laws, then that should be a conversation that you're having with human resources, and human resources will do a full investigation. And Cass, I know you're on the call. Do you maybe want to just chime in there about you know, what the state does or what you do when you receive those kinds of concerns?
Absolutely.
Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot.
No, that's okay. This is what I do, right? So generally, when we receive some kind of complaint that would fall under anything protected by a federal law, then John and I, or John and another member of HR, would reach out to the person making the complaint, and we'll do kind of what we would call an intake to understand what their complaint is and evaluate whether or not it falls under any of our protected classes or any of our federal laws. If it falls under, if it's something in a discriminatory nature or something like that, then we would look into doing an investigation. And we usually do those, well, shouldn't say usually, we always do those investigations with Jenny's knowledge. And then we would report back to management on the results of that investigation if it's warranted. If an investigation isn't warranted, then we would probably coach and help the supervisor or the employee work through whatever conflicts or issues that they were trained to understand and deal with. So not everything would go to a formal investigation, but we're definitely there to help work through issues and also, you know, do some conflict resolution and coaching there.
Thanks, Cass. And I would just say, you know, having worked with Cass and John Gardner over the last year or so. They do take any reporting like that very seriously, and engage with employees, engage with managers and supervisors. It's not something that we have a tolerance for. We have a zero tolerance policy for those kinds of discriminatory practices and behaviors. And so we will address those. I don't want anyone to feel like your only recourse if something's happening is that your only option is to go get an attorney. We do have a whole team within DHRM that's here to help you through those things. So please reach out to Cass or to John Gardner if you're having any concerns or issues there. That gets me through all the questions that were asked through the intranet and everything I see in chat for now. So any other questions that we can answer for you today? And I feel like Dan Chadwick should have to respond to something and show us his best St. Patrick's Day response. Or I love your costume.
I do it to embarrass my kids, keep them.
You're giving Matt a run for the longest beard competition there.
I'm so jealous. I was talking to Matt about that. I'm jealous of his beard.
Oh my.
Something I aspire to for sure.
Okay, someone asked, I might have missed it, but what was the employee increase authorized by the legislature? And again, DHRM, you can fill me in or you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it was, I believe it was 3.5% COLA across the board. And then there was also some targeted funding that was approved. And you can see that in the governor's budget. I don't have it with me because I'm working from home today, but you can see in the governor's budget, the targeted funding, they break it down by department. And I believe that the governor's recommendations were approved, but DHRM chime in if I'm getting that incorrect. But so there are some positions that will receive higher than the 3.5% based on targeted funding. DHRM worked very closely with the governor's office and the legislature to identify roles that were quite a distance from the market, and has a phased approach to start addressing some of those. And this year the focus was to address any roles that were greater than 15% from market. So that's where that targeted funding came into place. But across the board for all employees, it was a 3.5% COLA that was approved. Oh, and Alan just posted a link to the governor's budget, so you can find that. Someone asked, will everyone in the targeted salary increase positions receive the full 10%, 5%, or is that amount a max and could be less? Jean, are you on the call?
I actually can address that,
Oh,
Jenny.
Missy, go for it. That's right. That is your.
No, that is discretionary, and it's based on each agency's decision, and it's mostly based on performance and also funding. So just because it says that it says that is the recommended targeted increase doesn't mean that all of those employees are going to get the full increase.
Thank you, Misty. On the targeted increases, there is an agency. What are those agencies? Okay, so going back to that discussion we had during the legislative funding and the chart of accounts update, prior to our consolidation, when we were 3 different agencies, we had 3 different agency codes. And so agency 100 is the former Department of Administrative Services, 140 is the former Department of Human Resource Management, and 110 is the former Department of Technology Services. We do have a new agency code that will be effective July 1 of this year. We asked, when we consolidated, we asked for a year to get that chart of accounts update done because it is so time intensive in order to get that taken care of. So our new code, if John Ellis is on the line, I believe it's 150, but that doesn't go into effect until July 1. So right now on those on the funding, it still shows us as 3 separate funding sources: 100 DAS, 140 DHRM, and 110 DTS. Oh, thank you, Jenny. She put that in the chat too, so everyone can see that. Any other questions that we can respond to? Melissa, how are we doing with the Gov Ops games? Melissa or Justin Berry?
They're doing pretty good. We've got a lot of people doing the Geek Challenge, and we just need some trick shots and some fans to show their gear, but March Madness actually started today. So I think we may be able to get a little bit more folks involved with that. And just so you know, there's going to be another challenge next month, and you'll hear about that before the next town hall, but some good information for April as well.
Thank you, Melissa. So just a reminder, if you haven't visited the intranet, which is employee.govops.gov, I think is what it is. So I'm sure Melissa will throw that in the chat here in a second, but we do have our Gov Ops challenge that's happening right now. I still need to send in my trick shot. I did participate in the Geek Challenge, but I think I'm something like 200th place. So clearly my bracket skills are not good, but it's fun to watch anyway.
But Jenny, I think it's important that the world knows that EDO's own Michelle Brown is the top geek this week.
She's been in first place the last 2 rounds, so she did a great job picking her bracket picks.
Yeah, so join us.
Who knew she had this kind of talent?
Yeah, come in at noon and see if she gets knocked off her pedestal, though, because we start rolls at noon today.
Okay.
Today at noon, we'll roll the next round, so come on in.
Thank you, Justin. Someone says, I like Bill's digs way better. Where's Bill? Oh, yeah, there you go.
I'm in the office. Yeah, my office today. Yes.
The 2 of you need to get together. Dad needs to go visit. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions come through, so we'll give you the rest of the time back. Hope to see several of you at Geek Challenge, and we're looking forward to seeing some more submissions come through the intranet as part of the Gov Ops game. So again, questions for next month, if you want to submit them through the intranet, I will be much more diligent about checking before the meeting starts to make sure that I don't skip those. You're welcome to reach at any time, and we'll see you again next month. Oh, someone said, who in HR do we speak to if Dan's Chadwick's costume offends us? That would be Cass. Go talk to Cass Hart. All right. Have a great afternoon, everyone.